is the top 5 coaches who would never win a national title. I got this out of some article I was reading on the phone, Bach, and I'm not gonna go down their list. I'm gonna go work my way from the bottom up.
Oh, okay.
So this one right here is it's kind of funny. Now the list for this one is Jim Harbaugh,
Wow.
Michigan coach, and they fought his age because he's 60 right now. And what I said is, don't forget Coach Osborne's age, because I think Coach Osborne was probably 60 when he won it. But Michigan as the last 2 years, Michigan has played the best football I think that Michigan can play. You know, they've been in the national title games. What was they in the last 2 years?
The playoffs the last 2 years, not
Yeah.
quite the title game. Losing
Well,
in the
yeah,
semifinals. Yeah.
you know, as long as you're there, you know, he's right there.
Big Ten champs back.
Yeah,
back
so
years.
and you know, I think that they got to take that big step. You know, I think that if they can get to that national title game, maybe they can play a little bit better instead of getting put out in the semifinals. So, you know, I don't know about this one. What you think about this one?
Well, I like it first of all because I mean you kind of there's a lot of names you could throw out there that won't win a national title and not gain a whole lot of response. But when you say Harbaugh, that obviously makes you kind of think about it because he's right there. You know, to say that now when he's closest than he's ever been is really interesting. I think it kind of pairs with the question of how long do you expect Michigan to be at the top of the Big Ten? Will you know if they fall a little bit this year and Ohio State reclaims that spot, can they bounce back, or is this kind of the years that they needed to take advantage and didn't quite do it? I don't know. I mean that's a really good one. I think that it's hard to say that he won't win one. I don't necessarily see him going anywhere else. So will Michigan win one? Keeping in mind they've only won one half of one in 1997. You know, since like the 60s or before that. So it very well could be true. I like if I had to bet on it, I suppose I would probably bet against it. I always think him as one of the best coaches, but not the best coach. And you don't always see the best coach to win the national title. I don't know. Maybe a special quarterback could get it done for him. But that's intriguing. That's a good name.
Yeah, that's a good name. Here's my thing. You know, I see a lot of people got Ohio State winning the conference this year. You know, they're 10-1, Michigan 10-1, and I think they had Penn State 10-1. So that'd be a funny thing. But you know, if playing in the regular season is not a problem for Michigan, you know, it's the playoffs time where they don't live up to that hype. You know, I think last year they got beat by TCU.
Yeah.
So
And
you know, that
great game.
the great game. I think it was a game they should have won.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had some healthy guys like the
Blake
running,
Corum,
yeah, they had the running back. I think they probably would have solidified that more of a victory instead of a loss. But you know, it's the little things that probably stopping them. So if they can learn with the little things about keeping players healthy, or you know, like you said, find that special quarterback, you know, that can lead them more on the field, like running and things like that. Because there's nothing wrong with the quarterback they had last year. He could have did a lot of stuff better, but they still went undefeated. So you know, you really can't take anything away from a 11-1 team.
Well, you really, I remember, you know, coming out of that Michigan game too that Nebraska played, and Michigan thoroughly dominated. Nebraska never had a chance. But at the same time, you came away from, at least I did, and a few people I talked to came away with them thinking like they feel really good, but they don't feel quite next level, like dominant, like Ohio State does at times when they beat you. There's been games when Nebraska's went out there, college game day, you think about 2018, and you're on the field for 5 minutes with them, and you go, this is a mismatch. This is not, you know. In Michigan, again, they feel they're more of the power, lean on you, get you tired for the fourth quarter type of deal, and maybe so that doesn't necessarily wow you. But I think that that's part of the reason why there are still people that are having trouble giving the conference to Michigan over Ohio State, you know, in their predictions or just in their mind space, because they're not, you know, overwhelming like that.
All right, so that's number 5 guy. Gonna scratch him off.
Yeah. Like
Number
you said, we could take about talking about that one for like 30
yeah,
minutes.
yeah, you can talk about it. Hey, we could add coaches to this. So
Yeah.
but we're gonna go with their original five first.
Yeah.
So number 4 from the SEC, Lane Kiffin.
Hmm.
I think that's probably correct. I don't see Ole Miss or wherever he's at. I don't see them probably ever going to a national title game. They started off pretty good last year. I think they was 8-0.
Yeah.
Lost the
Ended
last.
really bad.
Yeah, ended real bad, like probably 3-4 straight losses. But
Yeah.
I think they probably got this one correct on this list.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. That's a guy that's had his shot at Tennessee, USC, and now Ole Miss in the SEC. Still very, relatively young, I should say. He was very young when he took over. Now he's getting near 50 years old, but he's 48 for what it's worth, and he's got a few more. So he's got a lot of time left. And being in the SEC, had a chance maybe to take the Auburn job. Maybe you would think of that as a higher ceiling than Ole Miss, but he believes. And what he's got going at Ole Miss, I don't think he'd get it done at Ole Miss. Honestly, I don't think that's necessarily his retirement spot. But I do think it's interesting that he chose to stay at Ole Miss over Auburn. But when you kind of think about a guy that might take over for Nick Saban when Alabama's done, Saban's getting older. That's where I'd hold off on Lane Kiffin. I would actually think, because of his age, because of that connection to Alabama, if he can kind of keep his name up there by the time Nick Saban retires, he could be the successor there. So I could see Lane Kiffin winning.
All right, well, he's off this list right here.
Yeah, I'd
He's
put him
still
on
on this list.
He's on that list.
Yeah, but all right, number 3, Pac-10 guy. Who you think?
Pac-10. Pac-12.
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 The Pac-8, they're getting smaller.
Yeah. Who knows what it's going to be at any moment here? They could lose a few teams. So I'm trying to think of somebody that would be kind of even in the conversation.
Well, I can tell you what, they're coming here. They're coming to the Big Ten.
Okay. Is it Lincoln Riley?
Chip Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with this. I don't see UCLA being probably I would put them in the top 5 or 6 in the Big Ten when they come in, but I don't see them beating the Big 3. I see them as a below Penn State type of team, probably equal to Nebraska if we get the ball rolling right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he had. I suppose he's put together 2 good seasons at UCLA, but they kind of did a similar thing last year where they were one of the undefeated teams.
Yeah.
Until late in the season, they ended up 9-4, which is good, not great. 8-4 the year before that, so he's turned it around enough at UCLA that he's not fired, because he was, at a time certainly on the hot seat as much as Frost was, because he went 3-9, 4-8, and 3-4 his first years at UCLA. I think he's a good fit for the West Coast. His offense isn't as innovative as it used to be. I think his time has passed him. I think his chance to win the championship, of course, was with Oregon back in the days.
Yeah.
And that's when his offense was innovative. It was tough. Everybody was trying to copycat it. And now those days are kind of past him. So yeah, I think he's probably past him.
Especially, is this the same Chip Kelly that went to the Falcons?
Yeah. Well, he went to the NFL.
Did he go to the Atlanta Falcons?
He went to the Eagles. He went to the Niners.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Who was the one that ran out on the Falcons that time?
That was UCLA coach too, Jim Mora.
Oh
yeah, Jim Mora Jr.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. He was there, but okay, we're not gonna worry about that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is number 2. Now, I this guy's young, but I think he got 30 more years of coaching. So I'm going to disagree with them on this one. The coach they have is Marcus Freeman.
Huh. That's that's interesting.
Yeah.
To go after Marcus Freeman, who has 1 year of head coaching experience.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like it, because this is a young African American coach who was handed down the job at Notre Dame. And I feel that he can get kids because he can relate to them. And for kids, especially minority kids, to see him as a young professional at that age, that they would relate to him more. And it's Notre Dame. Why not? It's not like he's at Sacramento State or somewhere. He's
Yeah.
at he's at one of the top schools who get more exposure than the number one team in the nation does because Notre Dame is on TV every week.
Yeah.
They got a luxury contract with what's they with CBS,
NBC. Yeah.
NBC. I mean, they're on every. I mean, don't too many teams play on NBC.
No.
So
Well, they
you
will
know,
now. The Big Ten's going to
the
start
Big
playing
Ten.
that, but
Okay, yeah. Drum roll to the worst coach who would never win a national title.
Ah.
Number one is Deion Sanders,
Interesting.
which we probably all know he won't win one at Colorado. But I can tell you this: if he goes to Colorado, if he goes to FSU, I think Deion will win a national title.
See, this is where I love the excitement, the anticipation. I want to see what he does at Colorado. I think year one, you're gonna have to give it more than 1 year before you get your final grade. I think this is gonna be a rough year.
I think this is on the back burner for. I think Deion knows, and probably who's the next coach, who's the coach at Florida State knows right now that hey, we're supposed to be one of the top dogs this year.
Mm-hmm.
So if this season doesn't go the way Florida State likes it, let's say they go 3-8.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna fire that coach.
Oh yeah.
So Deion's gonna be a one and done at Colorado. Now, if he gets down to Florida, where he's from, where he knows how to recruit and talk to those kids, he's gonna get the best out of Florida every year. So what the thing saying is that this list is not right at all. It's a list. Like we said, I don't agree with the Jim Harbaugh one. Because age doesn't play a number in college football. Coach Osborne, he was an old man when I played with him,
Right.
So he's definitely an old man now. So, like you say, I can understand Chip Kelly and Lane Kiffin, Marcus Freeman. Not too much satisfied with that because he's a first year coach. I know the thing about Notre Dame not in a conference probably hurts the chances too. But let's say in the next 2-3 years they get in the conference. Let's say they go to the can't come here. Can't go there.
I don't really know where to go.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, but that's still up in the air question.
Well, and with the 12-team playoff, I don't think it'll hurt them too much.
Yeah.
They've been able to get the 14 playoffs.
But like I said, with Deion, I definitely know he won't do it in Colorado. Yeah. So, like I said, his best chance are probably to, boat town and go to FSU if something tragic happens down there this year because they have Florida State actually probably playing for the national title this year.
They've got a lot of talent.
They got a lot of talent. I mean, they lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know what their chances are now, but they're saying with the return starters they have coming back, with the amount of guys they got, they saying that Florida State probably have a good chance of beating Georgia this year, which I would like to see if it could happen because personally, I don't want Georgia to be that three-peat first team. I don't want them to do it. Now, to say that, I'm going against my home team. So, that's what I don't want them to do.
Yeah, and Florida State's interesting. I love college football. I think it's better when Florida State's good. I love those Bowden years, the 90s. The rivalry with Nebraska, of course, was somewhat on the field with the championship game, but also somewhat off the field and just like whose program is better, who's dominating the 90s more, because both those programs were doing so in the 90s. But I'd love for them to be back. Jordan Travis is a huge quarterback. He's kind of like the hot quarterback, similar to Anthony Richardson last year. That didn't turn out well for Florida. Does turn out well for Florida State. Now they've had more success, obviously, even just last year. And they actually have been doing good in the transfer portal. You're right, they've lost some guys, but as far as like guys they picked up in the transfer portal, they're picking up like near the top of the list. They just got that the Coleman kid that transferred away from Michigan State. So I cheer for Florida State to be good. But I will say again, I don't know what to say about Deion Sanders or Coach Freeman, Marcus Freeman not winning championships. It's just so early in their tenure that's not going out on a limb. If you like most guys that have 1 year coaching experience or less than at this level, I would, 99% of them aren't going to win a championship. Winning a championship is hard. There's not a whole lot of people that do it. And recently, the ones that are doing it are repeating. They're like taking all the space. As long as Saban's here, it's gonna be hard to get through. Now Jimbo Fisher's in there. Dabo Sweeney's, fighting for championships. I think Lincoln Riley at some point is going to get across that line. So, I mean, it's no disservice to say someone's never going to win a championship. But yeah, I mean, I would doubt that they would. But I wouldn't put them on this list. If I did, I'd put them, closer to the bottom, the fifth or fourth, kind of like, oh yeah, well, I guess that makes sense, and then kind of get to your bigger names.
Now they did say something about Rule. They say his chances was better at Nebraska because he has a long tenure here, but which is I don't know.
It's a long until it's not. I mean, if he's bad for 3 straight years at any point during that 8-year term,
do you think Rule will win a national title here?
Again, that's a huge expectation. That's a different question. Do I think it will succeed here? Will he win a national championship here? Probably not. I mean, you're talking about a very small percentage of people that win a national championship. I know Tom Osborne did it, but I mean that's why it's hard to replicate Tom Osborne. So I mean, if I had to bet, it would be no, but that doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be wildly successful here, and maybe he could. I just he hasn't, for me to, I mean, and it's not necessarily going out on too much of a limb, but for me to kind of get you into the national championship talk, you've got to have kind of flirted with at least being there before. That's why I don't necessarily think Matt Rule, I wouldn't really necessarily bring that up, because as much as he built the programs at Temple and Baylor, they weren't on the edge of winning the national championship. Dion and Marcus Freeman, they're too young in their careers to have been flirting with getting close to a championship. That's what makes Chip Kelly interesting. That's what makes Jim Harbaugh interesting. He's right there. He's knocking on the door. So yeah, I mean, most coaches, like I could name, I don't know how many coaches there are, 130, whatever, how many FBS schools are. There's 125 of them that aren't going to ever win a championship.
Yeah. So here's the thing: what they said about Nebraska. They said Matt Rule might have been left off the list that Deion Sanders is on for a couple of reasons. Maybe it's all about the fact that Farrell believes that there is an outside chance that Nebraska football could win a title in his tenure. Assuming everything goes right, Rule will most likely be there for a while. His contract is not enough that his contract is rich enough that another school probably don't want to mess with him.